You've touched a little bit on meditation earlier today, and I've tried it several times in the past, and for various reasons didn't keep with it, and I've been doing it lately. And I know you've said before that, you can't get it wrong, but sometimes I don't feel like I'm doing it right. Does that make sense?
What's your reason for wanting to meditate?
I want to feel good all the time. I want to be connected to my source energy. I want to feel that connection. I want to feel it when I'm not meditating. I want to feel that all the time. And I was hoping that meditating would help me get in touch with that.
Did you hear us earlier as we were talking about energy flowing, and that when you're really in sync with the energy of your source, the sensation is very slight? In other words, the stronger sensation of energy flowing is either when you are suddenly raising your vibration or suddenly lowering your vibration. That's when those energy feelings are present. Right. So this ties into what we've been talking about here all day, about step 1 being step 1 and step 3 being step 3. And the thing that we most want you to hear about this is that the reason, if we were in your physical shoes, that we would be participating in the idea of meditation is because it would amplify our step 3. And sometimes what happens is that people meditate wanting answers to something, or they meditate wanting recognition of their connection or recognition of their worthiness, when really the purpose of meditation is to quiet your mind so that you stop all resistance, and in the absence of resistance, your vibration can raise, which is what the ultimate state of allowing is. And so we think that sometimes the reason that people feel that they are not having success in meditation is because they are getting their purposes sort of crossed within it. The reason we teach meditation is because we found that it's easier to teach people to have no thought than to have pure positive thought. In other words, it's really easier to teach you to quiet your mind than it is to teach you to take some subject that you're having trouble with and bring it to a good feeling place. It's a nice bridge. And so here's how we would proceed. We would not set aside large blocks of time because you've trained your thinking mechanism to be very responsive to thought. So to ask it to stop for long periods of time is not natural. Instead, we would say, set aside 15 minutes. And we would encourage you to do it every day because the unfolding is a progressive thing. So as you sit, and the idea is just to quiet your mind. Well, if you sit during a time of, right after you've had an argument with someone, you're not going to have a quiet mind. Or if you sit after you've worked on a computer program, you're not going to have a quiet mind. So pick a time before you've been stimulated to a lot of thought, and it makes it easier. So ordinarily, the earlier in the day, the better. Sometimes people will meditate at night or when they're tired, and then they just go to sleep, which is also a withdrawing of consciousness, and it is a time for alignment of energy, but you don't get the benefit from that you do from consciously quieting your mind and consciously acknowledging what it feels like to be in a state of no resistance. So we would just sit, and we would not think about past times when we thought we weren't succeeding. We would say, I'm just going to sit here and relax and be still and do my best, can't get it wrong, to quiet my mind. Which means most of you just cannot come to an abrupt halt about thought. That's unnatural too. So you might choose something. Focus upon a pattern in the carpet and just softly let your eyes trace the pattern. And even though you are thinking, you're not thinking very much. And so there is a sort of softening of thought. Or listen to the dripping of a faucet. Sometimes in a hotel room, Esther will actually focus upon the tone in the air conditioning unit. Just something mindless to focus upon. And as you do that, you will begin to feel a state of detachment. Now, you might sit there for 13 or 14 minutes and not feel that state of detachment. But even a few seconds of finding it is really enough, especially in the beginning.
I guess I don't know if I'm doing it right. Because I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be feeling.
The sensation is one of detachment. We have to give this to you because we can feel it from your energy as we are visiting. You're very well connected. And the advantage that Esther had when she sat for her first meditation is that she had not meditated before, and she had not been listening to any tapes that had connected her to source energy either. And so there was quite a sensational difference between the thought and the non-thought that was really recognizable to her, so she could really feel that she had shifted in some way. Where those like you who have been listening to our recordings and others who have done a very good job of aligning to your source energy, when you sit and quiet your mind and align to your source energy, there might not be a strong differentiation in the feeling between where you were and where you now are.
Okay.
And so that's why we say just relax and acknowledge that you are in this place of a quieted mind. Something that is also beneficial, especially if it is during the day when you are not likely to fall asleep, is put yourself in a prone position on a bed and just pretend that the mattress is absorbing you. Or pretend that you are on a flying carpet and feel the sensation of it. In other words, pretend that the carpet is on the floor and it's not yet flying. And put yourself on it. And then imagine, feel for it, lifting off the floor. Sometimes, especially when you are at the place that you are, where you have been in the vibration of your source long enough, sometimes focusing upon something like that can further your sensation if that's what you are wanting. Meditation is a tool for alignment. And using it for a workshop to create, now we would call it a workshop for creating, not meditation. And we think understanding what the purpose and reason for it is will serve you.
I have another question, and this one is related to health and to healing, and we touched on that a little bit earlier today, but my question is, suppose you have a congenital disorder like curvature of the spine. I have trouble with my spine, and this is something that's causing me trouble as I've gotten older, and it's causing me a lot of pain. And it's not something that anything can really be done about. It just is. It's the way my spine is shaped.
Then let's not even talk about it. If nothing can be done about it, then there's no point in even bringing it up. Or do you think maybe something can be done about it, so you want to talk about it?
Well, that was kind of my hope. That
we were just wanting to lovingly point out to you why you get stuck and why something is called congenital. That name is such a heavy anchor.
Yeah.
Because what it says is, I've had this, I've always had this, I always will have this, and I might as well not even talk about it because I've just got this. And we say nothing is like that. As you experience something not wanted, a rocket of desire of what is wanted is shot off. All you have to do is start finding vibrational harmony with what is wanted instead of continuing to resonate with what is not wanted. Your body is a reflection of your thought. So the reason people think that they get something and that it will always be with them is because they have an experience, they continued the thought, they thought the thought before they knew they were thinking the thought, and then when they found out that they were thinking the thought, they keep thinking the thought, and now they're thinking the thought about not wanting to think the thought, but they're still thinking the thought, and so they're holding this, and so on and on and on it goes. All you have to do is begin to make different statements about it.
So I believe I heard in one of the tapes that I listened to that you said that there's no physical apparatus that can't be fully restored.
Always. Yes.
So just through my own positive thoughts and creating a different vibration.
There's a few things that you have to do. You have to stop saying it's congenital. You have to stop saying that there's nothing that can be done about it. And you have to start saying, I have a resilient body that is reflective of my thought. And isn't it wonderful that as it gives me a little discomfort, I can remember that what I'm wanting is to have something that feels different. And then in your moments of, you know how sometimes your body is more comfortable than others. In a moment that it's comfortable, say, this is the way I'm supposed to feel, this is what I want my body to feel like, and sort of exaggerate or amplify that feeling of connection. And the more you do that, the more it will be believable to you that you can feel that way more of the time, until eventually you'll say, I can hardly remember the last time that I had that discomfort. Oh yeah, I remember, it was when I was mad about that, or mad about that, or mad about that. In other words, your discomfort always comes in your time of pushing against something.
Well, that's great. I had one more question, and it's, there's two parts. One is, do we all have non-physical help? Do we all have spirit guides or entities that are personal?
There are no exceptions to that.
Everybody?
Everyone. You are all powerfully uplifted, supported, and adored by source energy.
Not just our own inner beings, but other beings too who support us.
Oh yes, because your inner beings are all clumped together in large families.
Wow. That's really cool.
You have no idea how cool it really is.
I believe you. Well then, why is it so hard, or why is it so impermeable, or seemingly to me anyway, from my now perspective to connect with this non-physical or to understand it, or because I can sort of believe this and hear it and say, okay, I like that idea, but I'm looking around and I don't see it.
Physical beings have been practicing their separation for a long time. They talk about God as if it is something that is very separate from them. They see God as someone who punishes and who doesn't like them. We think that it stems primarily from what we started with here today, where you innately want to feel good. And when you see something pleasing, you do feel good. But when you see something unpleasing, you don't feel good. And then you say, we've got to change that unpleasant thing so that we can feel good. And in that effort of pushing against all those unwanted things, you cause yourself to fill with a vibration that does not allow the fullness of who you really are. And then you say, the world is not a bright and beautiful place because I'm standing in the shadows. And we say, you're standing in the shadows, but the world is still a bright and beautiful place. And you say, not from where I stand. It's that sort of cycle that happens. The good news is that even in all of that, stronger desires are born. And when a desire is born, almost without exception, you will find yourself in one time or another in the place of allowing. And so life goes on pretty darn good for most people. Let us put it to you this way. If you never heard anything about law of attraction, if you didn't know anything about Abraham or the science of deliberate creation, if you never heard about the art of allowing, but you had a grandmother, or you meet somebody on the street even today as an adult, and they emphasize in a way that you really hear it, that appreciation is a very good practice, and so all you did was just look for things to appreciate, you would live a joyous, spectacular life. If there was nothing else that you ever came to understand other than just look for things to appreciate, it's the only tool you would ever need to predominantly hook you up with who you really are. That's all you'd need.
One more just small question here. And it's about God. You were talking about God earlier, and my understanding was you said God is simply life force. So God is not an entity.
We don't use the word very often because it means different things to so many people, and so when we use it, all it does is activate a vibration within you that isn't what we mean. Somebody said to us one day, Abraham, you don't talk about God in your seminars much. And we said, well, actually, we don't talk about anything else. It's all about that. Physical humans just sort of have convoluted ideas about what it is. Source energy, or all that is, we like that word even better than God, is an expanding consciousness that, yes, is an entity. You ask, does everyone who I know in the physical format have an inner being? And we say yes. And those inner beings have inner beings who 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 have inner beings. And we're all connected to that which you want to call God. In other words, it's this source energy. As you stand in your physical format, you can focus here or focus here or focus here, but you can't focus on all things at once. And that which you call God is not focusing on all things at once as an individual entity, but when you recognize that it is this collective consciousness, then it has this ability to focus simultaneously in lots of different places. Man often wants God to be someone who is looking out, who is helping him out of trouble, where what this energy is that we are calling God, and it is a consciousness. In other words, as Esther feels the personality of Abraham and feels the comfort of knowing that we are aware of her and that we care about her and that we have knowledge that we are willing to guide her, that is the way, if we were in your physical shoes, that we would conjure the image of that which is God. In other words, it is consciousness that has full awareness of you. It is consciousness that is directed to you. It is consciousness that understands you and wants for you all things that you want. But it is not consciousness that will do for you. And it is not consciousness that believes that you are wrong, that is wanting to guide you back to another place. It is consciousness that understands the perfection of your beingness, you see. And when you are in alignment with that which it is, you are thriving. And when you step out of alignment with it, then you do not have an experience that is as satisfying. But you have full choice in all of that, you see.
Is it important to communicate with that form of consciousness?
Well, actually, you cannot help it. The cells of your body are doing it constantly. And we would say the more consciously aware you are of your connection to it and the more interactive you are, the fuller your experience will be. Because it is literally infinite intelligence that adores you.